There you go. Toan, if you want to just admit everyone, I can get started.
Awesome. Yeah, I will do that.
So I am thrilled to see familiar faces and some new ones pop up here. Thank you for taking time out of your day, nights to join us for this event. My name is Hope Patterson. I'm a mom of two. I always need to ground my introduction with that. I am a transformation coach and global education innovation specialist. And I made up a word about 20 years ago that guides my life. It's silly sounding, but it's stuck with me and has been right here ever since. You want to hear it? I think there's a few people here who know what I'm going to say. Fajondalize, starting with an Fajondilize. Fajondalize means to roll up your sleeves and dive into life fully in every moment. And I believe this morning or tonight, wherever you are in the world, we're going to meet some young Fajondalizers. I want to begin by saying, when we gather creative, open-minded brains together in a trusted space, magic is bound to happen. Welcome to Hope Braintrust, a character-filled space online and in person. Yes, we sometimes do in-person events designed for and by this growing community. Yep, there are plenty of communities to be part of. I believe this one is truly special. We act to mobilize authentic connections between all stakeholders in education: students, teachers, parents, builders, the academics, and everyone in between. Over the past 9 months of hosting these events, I believe you're going to meet courageous and willing people you would never otherwise have met. And by meeting these new global allies, we're jostling out of our proverbial islands or mountaintops to share, collaborate, learn together, and pitch in to truly innovate across all groups and silos. And for those who know me, you know I love to sync up different generations to learn from each other. And today's session has been a collaboration between a remarkable team, Toan, wave your hand, he's in Vietnam, and a super connector, adult, entrepreneur in Canada. And despite the age gap, I believe Toan and I are both on a mission to support brave education models for the future of our kids. I'm excited to hand you over to Toan, an articulate, open-minded, dedicated learner, to showcase what learning looks like when our kids take the reins of their lives. My invitation today is listen in. Be open to changing your minds. Be open to making connections. Dive into discussion and find ways to follow up after this event. I'll be supporting Toan with his amazing program today. Please let me know if you've got any questions, drop them in the chat, and I'll send a follow-up email with links for the recording, cool resources shared to follow up on. Let's get started. Toan, over to you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Hope. And yeah, hello everyone. My name is Toan. I'm going to share screen right now. And I'm really excited to start this presentation with everyone in here. So Hope, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah. You can just go up the top, share. There you go.
There you go. So before we jump into like the main event of the conference, I would love to tell you a bit about myself. I will keep it really brief. It's like 3 years ago, I was fed up with the education system. For the first time in quarantine, I experienced online schooling. And then after that, I got this short 1-month period where I went back to school and learned the normal model of education. And I remember in that period of time, I was sitting in class and I just felt this connection with everything that I was learning. I felt like my learning was just so plain and boring, and I felt like there must be something more to life. So that summer, I researched more about online schooling and I stumbled into homeschooling. So I made a presentation to convince my parents to homeschool. And one of the things I told them was that I will complete the high school program in 2 years. And you know what? I completed in one. And now I'm on my journey to complete my bachelor at 18. And with all of this experience, I try to share it on my Twitter account. And I will share like my journey, some of the learning insights that I have gained, and also some of the research that I've collected over the years. And my ultimate goal for the next 2 to 5 years is to become a certified learning coach so that I can make sure that everything that I'm saying is actually helpful and beneficial for the students. Because my goal is to help people learn more efficiently. So getting that credibility and credential is something that would really help me on this journey. But yeah, back to the event. For this event, um, the purpose of this event is best summarized through this quote. Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. And I chose this quote because I want this event to be an opportunity for us to connect between different generations, for the students to connect with the adults, with the educators and the parents, so that we can look at the problem that seems to be very familiar with us from a different lens. And that is the goal with this event. And with this goal in mind, the agenda for this event has 4 parts. First, we'll meet some of the teens, some of the ambitious teens at Alpha X. I've invited them in today. And like next, we will have like the problem solving game where you can enter a breakout room with these teens to solve this problem. And then we can showcase your solution, can vote to see which team has the best solution. And finally, we will wrap things up with some final words from Hope and I. So yeah, with that being said, let's jump straight into the first part, which is meeting the teams. And first, I want you to see this video.
Students attend Alpha High School in pursuit of doing something far greater than what a traditional school would allow them to do. Students use their time in high school pursuing their passion and purpose in the form of a masterpiece. Each masterpiece has an incredibly high bar. To meet this bar, each student's masterpiece should be the equivalent of being an Olympian. The first step in this process is for students to set and clearly articulate their one-line Olympic caliber goal. That is what you are about to witness.
I'm going to create an animated TV show like my favorite, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, with at least 1 million weekly viewers. I'm Adrian Solo.
I'm going to create a newsletter that attracts 50 million readers by making cutting-edge biotechnology easy, exciting, and explaining how it's beneficial for everybody's health and lives. I'm Clara Aboneo.
I'm going to get 1 million new kids to start playing chess by showing them it is super fun and good for you. I'm Nathan Brown.
I'm teaching 1 million girls the values of the 10 Commandments using teenage entertainment. I'm Peyton Price.
I'm going to design my own clothing line and then revolutionize distribution by creating my own virtual fashion exhibit that attracts 10 million guests. My name is Wade Driscoll.
I am transforming the way parents view education by creating a top 10 Substack newsletter that influences millions of moms and makes $1 million a year. I am Kate Levar.
I'm getting the most downloaded water skiing game ever. I'm going to get 1 million downloads and an endorsement from a major water skiing related company. My name is Ben King.
I'm going to build a safe-to-meet dating app for millions of students that makes $1 billion. My name is Ellie Moore.
I'm on a decade-long journey to destroy the copy and paste culture of AAA games and reinvent the gaming industry by influencing the uprise of indie game development. I am Parker O'Hara.
I'm going to find the prevention and cure for breast cancer using the connection between food and epigenetics. I'm Grace Price.
I'm going to transform professional water skiing from an underfollowed individual-based sport to a super popular team-based phenomenon followed by millions. My name is Connor Pesic. I'm building the world's best bike park by building Texas's best bike park as my first step. I am Rhett Jones.
My name is Tessa Stovall. I'm transforming how we raise kids by creating a metaverse community of over 10 million children who are learning life skills.
Wow. Those are amazing. Toan, do you want to share with everybody, you're in Vietnam, you don't attend Alpha School. So how did you meet these students?
Yeah, so it's quite a fun story. Like most of us are like connected through Twitter, and like yeah, I see some of their content, or like I remember like a few months ago, I also like interviewed the principal of their school, and also like I'm principal. I interviewed like I think like the head at GT school, and that was when I got to know some more of these teams, and that's how I connected, and here we are today.
Amazing. Do you want to unshare your screen, and we're going to bring some of these teens on? When Toan and I were talking about ideas for connecting Hope Braintrust or members of education innovators around the world to teens, we were thinking, okay, what do we do here? And Toan said, you know what? I want to shine a spotlight on some of these teens, hear from their mouths what they're creating. So Toan, do you want to bring somebody up from the teens?
Yeah, absolutely. So first I would love to bring up Clara O'Neil. So Clara, can you please raise your hand so like we can pin you at the top of the panel? All right.
Okay, I'm
Yep.
gonna pop you in there. Can everybody see Clara?
There's a
Amazing. You
thumbs up if you see
unmute.
Clara.
Can you see Clara? Clara, do you want to unmute? We're so happy to meet you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Clara O'Neil, and I am a sophomore, so 10th grader at Alpha High School. And my masterpiece is that I'm creating a cutting-edge newsletter about the latest advancements in cancer biotechnology, explaining it in simple, engaging, and interesting ways, and getting 50 million readers. So yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. So how do you choose this masterpiece idea?
Well, I think it stemmed from my entire life. I wanted to be a doctor. And then as I got older, I realized that I want to do something more than that. Beyond just helping people in my area, I want to be able to be helping people worldwide. But I was like, how am I going to do that? So then I decided that after becoming a doctor, I'm going to start my own biotechnology company that helps millions, maybe even billions of people worldwide. And my first step to do that was learn everything I can about the latest biotechnology. And so that was the first step to choosing a newsletter about biotechnology. And then making it more specifically about cancer. I think it's a broad yet niche topic. There's many types of cancers to learn about, and a lot of new research towards cures. So I think it's just an area with a lot of potential.
Wow, that's wonderful. And is there any message, or like is there anything you can share with the audience that you want them to support you with, or something that you're interesting that you're working on right now?
Yeah, I have a Twitter account at Breakthrough Bio. I can send it in chat. I would love if you guys followed me there. I'm posting new content pretty much every day. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Clara. And like for the audience in here, after we showcase of the teens, then you can have time to like ask them more questions individually about things you're interested in. So yeah, thank you for that, Clara. And now I would love to bring up the second person from Alpha, which is Grace Price. So Grace, can you like raise your hand so like we can showcase you on stage?
I think Grace is here. Where's Grace?
Yeah, I think her camera is off.
Oh, let's see if she's there. You know what I was going to do? Well,
Sorry, guys, one moment.
that's okay. Hi, Grace. We're looking forward to meeting you. And I was thinking that while we wait, if anybody had any questions about Alpha, to pop in the chat. Thanks, Clara. You're adding your Twitter handle here.
Yeah,
Alpha
is pretty confusing, so questions are welcome. We are used to being interviewed about it.
Are you? Okay. Maybe you want to share a little bit about Alpha beyond the video. That would be really great.
Sure, I'll give a short little like one-liner.
Great.
What Alpha does is we take traditional learning methods and we kind of throw them in the trash. We use online adaptive apps to help us learn our core curriculum. So math, science, history, English. And using these adaptive apps, we can learn 2 times faster. And that means we have all this time in the afternoon to spend focusing on developing and cultivating our passions and connecting them to a bigger purpose in the world.
That's super cool. And just Clara, while you're still up there, I'm going to open it up for everybody to ask questions after we meet Grace. But do you speak regularly? Do you go around kind of sharing your mission and your masterpiece, or is this an unusual event for you?
I would say I speak pretty regularly about it. We kind of, as part of our masterpiece building, we have to create an audience, especially if you have a more distribution-based masterpiece like mine and sharing my newsletter. So I DM 3 people every day throughout all of the weekdays, so 15 DMs a week most weeks. I email scientists, adults, whomever, to kind of get the word out about myself.
You're flexing your bravery muscle. I love it. There's some great questions in chat. So maybe I'm going to go over to Grace and have her share with Toan. I'll hand her over to you. And Clara, if you don't mind answering some of those questions in the chat, that would be great. And we'll open up the chat to everybody to ask questions after Grace. Thanks so much, Clara. I'm just going to unpin you and pop you up, Grace. Here we go. Do you want to unmute yourself? Nice to meet you. Over to you, Clara.
Yeah, hi. Nice to meet all of y'all. So my name is Grace. I am on the mission to flatten the curve of cancer incidences by 2040. So basically this just means new cancer cases I want to prevent from happening. The way that I'm doing this is I'm researching the connection between food and epigenetics. So this is the way that the food that we eat affects our gene expression. That's basically all that fancy term means. And what's really cool about that is when we eat a ton of foods, we can actually reverse certain epigenetic changes. So these things can change depending on our lifestyle. And so I specifically focus on helping people learn how to take away actionable insights from a ton of health jargon that I kind of sift through and translate on my Twitter account on how they can avoid certain foods that can actually lead to epigenetic changes that cause cancer. What this could look like is if you eat a ton of processed food, the toxins in it could basically cause the genes to be expressed more often that lead to cancer. One example of this are oncogenes. It could turn that light switch on and it could turn genes off that prevent cancer. And so that's obviously not good. And I try to inform as many people about this because it's definitely not a well-known topic, but I think it proves that prevention is very powerful. And it's kind of where the whole world of medicine is moving now, because we're learning a lot more about early detection and things. And so the best thing we can do is kind of focus on what's in our control when it comes to food and really prevent cancer through that. I know Clara and I both are focusing on cancer, but I promise you guys, there's a ton of different other topics that people at Alpha are focusing on. My sister is focusing on writing the next hit Broadway musical. So there's a wide variety of things going on, and I'm super happy to be here and ask all of y'all's questions.
Amazing. Welcome. Toan, do you want to get started with the questions? Do you have any questions for Grace?
Yeah, Grace, I would love to know like your thought process when you decide your masterpiece. Like, was it a difficult decision for you to choose your masterpiece?
Yeah, so it definitely was difficult, but I will say the greatest thing about doing our masterpieces at Alpha is that we're so supported. And so there are people that are telling us like, hey, these are some resources you maybe want to look for. So while it is independent learning, we have people that are constantly looking to help get us connected to their network and improve our own masterpiece. So I think that having that kind of resource really helped me commit to my topics, because I've had plenty of different topics before. At one point, I wanted to write a hit song and get 1 million views on SoundCloud. So it definitely changes, but My most recent passion has been within the field of epigenetics, and I think that cancer just gives it more of an external value that really helps me stay committed to it.
Wow, that's wonderful. And what is your plan with this masterpiece, even after you graduate high school? Is this something you're gonna work on next 10, 20 years, or what is your plan with this?
Yeah, I definitely plan on working on it for the next 10-ish years because it's a really big goal. And I think that right now, I hope to just continue to spread the word through my Twitter account and then a podcast that I'm getting started that I'm very excited about, where I'm going to basically just help parents understand really what teens are being fed and what eating right looks like for a teen in everyday life as an American, because it's really crazy here, the food that is normalized for us. So that is kind of my goal. And I just plan on continuing to grow my audience so that eventually once it helps my podcast grow. And I think distribution in itself just helps once you have a stronger product that you're going to sell. So you already have people bought into you, so they're more likely to buy into your product.
Wow, that's wonderful, Grace. And yeah, I think I would love to open it up for the audience because I see that there's a lot of question in the chat right now.
Yeah, do you want to
So,
put your hands up and we'll call you up?
yeah.
And I'll keep you up there, Grace. You're so engaging. Maybe you can answer some of the questions. We've got educators, we have podcasters here, we have people working in people who are parents, and there are some students here, which is cool. Do you want to put your hand up if you've got a question? Anybody?
I see that Aaron is raising his hand.
Okay, go ahead.
So I had the privilege of interviewing one of your classmates who goes by the moniker the Austin Scholar, who is brilliant and created a kind of master project around teaching students and parents the power of generative AI, but also how you make learning more student-centered, which is like my goal as an educator and entrepreneur as well. What was really cool about the conversation we had in a video podcast was that she talked about the power of collaboration and how working with other students at Alpha was like crucial to her own individual project. And working in youth entrepreneurship, I think collaboration is like the most important, or one of the most important skills that can kind of be lived. Can you speak to collaboration in your project?
Yeah, that's a really great question because at Alpha, we collaborate with all kinds of grade levels. There is no boundaries. I get help from freshmen on my masterpiece sometimes, and I'm a junior. So collaboration is definitely something that is very much encouraged. And I would say with my masterpiece, collaboration has been huge because I talk to some of my friends who are experts at kind of getting viral videos going on TikTok about how I create video content for my Twitter account. So that's one example. We also all talk about how to use AI. We are always trying to improve our prompts because your output is only as good as your prompts. So I get a ton of collaboration on that end. And then I also just am I'm fascinated by everyone else's projects. And I honestly think I grow just as a person from learning about each of them. So I am constantly having conversations with Kate, Awesome Scholar. I have conversations with Tessa, Clara, all of these people who you'll be able to find us online. But yeah, I think we're just, because there are no limits in our environment at Alpha, everyone really is in it together, and we all are trying to push the limits together because it's hard. Like, solving cancer is not an easy goal, and people hear that, they're like, okay, just another kid with that kind of passion. But the truth is we all have these insane goals, and so we do whatever we can to support one another in that sense.
So inspiring and articulate. Thanks, Aaron, for your question. And it's really timely. Aaron, I added a couple links in there to check out Aaron's work with Unruler. And kids at Alpha, check him out. His work is so cool on creating portfolios for students. Any other questions for the students? Grace or Clara, please put your hand up. We'd love to hear from you.
I think while we're waiting for someone to raise their hand, we have this question from Toan in the chat, which is one of the criteria in a masterpiece to build or have an audience? So Claire, would you like to take that?
I would love to. I was actually typing out an answer right now, but this is perfect. Yes, for every single masterpiece, building an audience is key because every single project in some way needs to be shared. One of our friends, Rhett, building the biggest bike park in Texas. But one of the ways he gets investors is by posting on Twitter, by reaching out online. And even though a lot of the work he has to do is physical, is, digging trails and recruiting people, he has to create an audience and has to find a way to get the word out about his project. So yeah, every project has to have some form of audience building. Could be on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, depends where your audience is.
Awesome. And we have a question, or actually a statement. Richard, if you want to go ahead and share that. I'm also in Canada and lived in Toronto. I know this school, Alpha. Do you want to share a little bit about that, Richard? I think maybe his screen is off. Go ahead, Richard.
No, thanks, Hope. I'm not closely connected with the school. The name Alpha, of course, brought it to mind right away as we're talking here tonight. But it's a school that would call itself a democratic school. It's been running for 5 decades or more. Deborah Rourke has just written a book on the history of it and the battles that it's had to fight to stay alive in a traditional school board. And so interesting reading. And as Clara said, it's a school that has put traditional methods in the trash, empowered the students, and just added a lot to their learning by doing so. I'm just in the process of putting another link in chat to a book by Linda Ronstadt. Let me just get her name right there. It's called, it's Aronson, Linda Aronson. And she wrote a book called Unleashed to Learn, Empowering Students to Learn at Full Capacity. And what has been said here has reminded me of her. She ended up doing what was called, what's the word for it? I'm not remembering it, but it's the capstone to your education. And basically it's a year of where a student decides on their own project, much as you're mentioning you're doing here. And it's to pursue learning that they would want to do. So it might be that they have school time to build a guitar, to go on a tall ship learning cruise, to do just all sorts of things that they would never get a chance to do in a typical school system. And so that makes really good reading too. And the more students are exposed to these ideas, the more they dream about what they would like to do that's different from what others are doing. And so I'll put that reference in the chat as well.
Thanks, Richard. I'm actually just I'm gonna call out Livy Redden, because I think these guys will really want to meet you. Livy, do you mind just, if you have any questions? Livy has an amazing podcast and she's written a book and building her own audience. I wondered, Livy, you're a few years ahead of these guys, but still young and very ambitious. Do you have any words or questions for these amazing teens?
I mean, I've been sending questions in the chat. I've been frantically looking up people. This has been so interesting. You guys are so cool. I mean, I feel like I would have thrived if I could have done something like this as a teenager. I'm 22 now. And basically my whole mission is being an advocate for emotional education. So the idea is that a lot of our societal suffering, a lot of generational trauma comes from a lack of emotional education, just a lack of basic emotional skills. And that's what I advocate for with my book, my social media podcast. As far as, there was one question I have. I'm curious why you all chose Twitter. I'm curious, I mean, I think it makes sense because often the tech space or people in the scientific field are on Twitter, but I guess I'm curious That would be my question, being the social media nut that I am.
Who wants to take that? Clara or Grace? Go ahead.
Yeah, I
Grace,
can take that.
take it?
Yeah. So that's a great question. We actually, I think the reason why, so everyone at Alpha is either on two platforms. They're either on TikTok or Twitter. And the reason for that is we kind of view them as Twitter is more professional and it's kind of an adult space. I wish there were more teens on it, but it's obviously not as many teens as TikTok. So that is where a lot of the people who one just prefer writing go to, and they also are kind of targeting that audience. Whereas all of the people on TikTok, I mean, I would say most of them have more visual kind of artistic projects, and they also are just targeting teenage audiences. So it makes the most sense. But either way, the goal of us using both of those platforms is to use it as a kind of a marketing funnel so that when we have our project, hopefully some of those followers can fall through to the more committed follower part of the funnel where it gets a little bit smaller, and whatever other kind of long form content we have, whether that's an app we're trying to get them to sign up for, or maybe it's a newsletter or Substack like Kate has, they will be able to get more outreach for that. So I think that's why we chose those. I know on Instagram, we viewed it as just a little bit harder to grow a following. It takes a lot longer.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to have anyone get too discouraged on that. And then YouTube, it takes a long time to make the content. So I do think YouTube, however, though, is an option for long form content that maybe people's Twitter accounts or Instagram accounts could drive to. So I would say those are kind of the ones that we use the most, but we're always adapting. So it could totally change next year, depending on what we learn and observe. So yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks, Grace. Yeah, I mean, I figured, but I wanted to hear your perspective. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much else. I don't know if you wanted me to share anything else about me personally, Hope, but
Yeah, you could just share with these two amazing teens and pop in the chat your book. Livy also just did a TED Talk that's very inspiring for teens. Didn't want to miss that.
yeah, what no one tells you about your 20s. The video will be out in. It's not live on the TED website yet, but it'll be out soon enough. But
Awesome.
I'll put my book in the chat.
Pop it in the chat, and everybody, please follow Livy. She's doing some amazing, inspiring work. Thanks, Livy.
Thank you, Hope. I appreciate it.
I wanted
Hope,
to. Go ahead.
I think we have time for one more question. I see this question in the chat, which is curious what students are thinking about university following this amazing school experience. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Clara or Grace, would any of you like to take this?
Yeah. Well, this year we had a graduating class of 3. So Alpha is still obviously quite small. So we had 3 seniors this year. One of which is going to NYU Shanghai. The other is going to Case Western, and the third is going to St. Edward's, which is local. But I think what they're looking for mainly in a university experience is somewhere where they can make connections, because it depends on where you want to go in your career and what path you want to take. For the more entrepreneurial track, you want to go to college to make connections if you don't need, a degree to do whatever you're doing. But if you're going for something more like that requires experience of a certain kind, then you go to college for kind of that degree. But those are the 2 main things we're looking for in universities.
If it's okay, I would love to add something to that. But how you're saying it's kind of hard to look for colleges, like I'm looking at colleges right now because I have to go next year, and it's crazy. We've just been so spoiled with our experience at Alpha because we have so much independence, and we've just been exposed to all of these kind of radical educational ideas that a lot of colleges just haven't caught on to. And so one thing that I'm looking for is I'm just looking for a college that will allow me to continue my passions in my Alpha X project, because it's an ambition that's not going to go away. And I think that as long as the college has kind of a structure that would support that would be the best for an Alpha student, because Alpha students aren't going to stop. They're going to keep going. So yeah, that would that's kind of how I would answer that.
Thank you both. So over to you, Toan, who's going to lead us into breakouts where we get to meet some of these teams and Toan and dive into discussion.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Hope. And if you have any questions for the teens, like you can continue the conversation in the breakout room. I have assigned a member to make sure that each room has a teens in the room. And if your room doesn't have a team, then I'll be hopping around between rooms to just hop in to see if there's anything I could help with. But the prompt for this session is that imagine that you have an unlimited budget to redesign your classroom from scratch to create the ultimate learning environment. What would your classroom look like? What would the role of the teacher be? And what would a day in your classroom look like? And what's your secret sauce of your classroom? So just keep these questions in mind. The breakout room is going to be around like 20 minutes long. And at the end, we will come back together, and each group, you can assign like 1 or 2 speakers for your group, and then you're going to present your ideas. And then afterwards, we will vote to see that which group has the best solution. So is this clear for everyone? Like, just give me a quick thumbs up so that I can assign people to the breakout room. Thumbs up. Yep. Awesome. So Hope, I will open the breakout room.
Yeah, we'll see you on the other side. Enjoy meeting each other and making new connections.
All right. Yep. I think everyone's in a room. And I'm not in a room yet. Room 3 and room 4 doesn't have a team yet. So I will hop between those 2.
Okay, do you want to go into room 4 right now?
Yeah, I will go to room 4.
Room 3 has a teen because Paul's daughter's with him, so they have a teen there. So we have a teen in everyone.
Okay.
So if you go into room 4, that'll be good.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, great. Have fun. It's 20 minutes.
Bye.
Right. Bye.
They'll do what they want to do as a vocation. You know, they want to work directly with kids and take them beyond where they are, and they want to be able to individualize learning, which is the role of a coach rather than the role of a teacher. So I think actually freeing up teachers to be able to do that, creating a learning space where they can do that, is vital. And then in answer to your question, the reason why kids develop is because they can engage with people who are equally passionate with them. So if you free up teachers to be passionate about learning, I mean, you know, you lot are great examples of how you do that. All you need are triggers and springboards to facilitate that. But within normal schools, we lack those possibilities.
That's interesting. I've never thought about that, that it's also like if the teacher isn't passionate about the way they're teaching, the curriculum they're being given to teach, like how can you expect the students to have any sort of passion about it? That's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, we all have, you know, we all think back, we all have at least one favorite teacher. And the common factor would be this was a teacher who engaged with us individually and made some sort of, it wasn't what they taught us. I mean, you'll forget everything they taught you, but they will have changed your mindset in some way, which will trigger your future development. So it's quite simple, isn't it? We have to allow teachers to be passionate and keep that link going with youngsters.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I also love the way how you said it's almost as if teachers need to like step back from the front of the room and really guide the students, because I think that guidance allows for the students to drive and take ownership of their learning while also still having like the backboard of if you do get stuck in all of these things. But even when you do get stuck, it's important to know how to get out of it. And just really having the teacher there to hold you accountable, which I love how you described that. I think that's a great thing to recognize.
I mean, you're totally right. And what youngsters, students don't realize is that their role is to help teachers become facilitators and coaches, because for teachers of my generation and a bit younger, they're totally out of their comfort zone, because you lot know far more about the world than we do, quite rightly, and you have immediate access to the world, quite rightly. So as you've just said, our role is to help facilitate and gently nudge and be a springboard for that development. So what youngsters need to realize is that part of your role is to encourage teachers to be able to do that. And you know, that's something which nobody really addresses.
But
you know, so
can I just ask a question on that? I totally agree with you. And I would also say that many young people are told not to speak up and not to encourage their teachers. They are taught to be in the more submissive position in the hierarchy, and that the teachers tell them what to do and how to think. And so it is a paradigm shift. So you're talking about the secret sauce to this ideal school. It's where the teachers are learning from the students, right?
Exactly. So at a practical level, how can that happen? And it's something I mentioned to you, Hope, the other day, that if we can set up small, a bit like Alpha as a whole unit, if you can set up small units of change within each school, so teachers and kids can dip their toe in the water in a non-pressurized environment, either at break time or lunchtime, and then other teachers and other kids can see, you know, that, and I want a part of that. You know, so it's people being able to see that in action. So coming back to the main point, the questions, what sort of environment? My view would be, it doesn't matter about what the room looks like. It's setting up a comfort area, a no risk area where youngsters and educators can mix together. So it's a bit like a micro version of what you're doing, Hope.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. You know, I would. Glenn, I'm so curious. I've not met you before. Maybe you were doing introductions before I hopped on. Did everybody meet you?
Hello. Yes. I totally agree with everything that's being said here. I always try to make my students feel like, you know, the grade is a team, you know, the with the teacher included. It's not like the teacher is, you know, what the teacher says, you know, that's it, that's all, you cannot question it. And like you said, yes, students are taught not to speak up or not to go against what the teacher is saying. And now it's a different time, because before we couldn't like Google stuff, but now, you know, kids Google everything, and being able to share every point of view is always important.
Yeah, and when they have audiences like Grace and Clara, they have a lot of clout, right, Libby? When I think that's so smart to build your audience, so you end up having this amazing momentum behind you that is irrelevant. School is not so relevant. In the ideal school, Grace, or anyone else, do you think that school needs to exist? Or is it we remove school to some degree, and I know it's crazy, but remove school and emphasize learning? What do you think, guys? Am I crazy?
So I completely agree with you. And that's coming from someone who goes to a school with no teachers. So I definitely have experienced a school that is not really school. It's because it's all about learning. That's the main focus. And I think one of the greatest stories that really exemplifies this is when I first came to Alpha. I came from public school and I was in the advanced math class and I took a test at Alpha, and it's all mastery based learning. So I took the test and they were like, "You have not mastered fractions." And I was like, "Well, okay, but I'm supposed to be in 7th grade math." And they were like, "You have to go back to 4th grade math, master where your holes are, and then work your way back up." And so just one of the first things I had to do was go back and push myself through all those grade levels of math and truly master where I had holes. Because the truth is, at school, in any kinds of forms of school, learning is not the priority. It's getting you to check off the boxes. So first the box of graduation, then the box of getting into college, then the box of graduating college, and the list goes on. And I really do believe if learning is the priority, the way that school is structured would just look so different. You couldn't even call it school. So I completely agree with you, Hope, because it's so radically different than what we're currently doing in our education system.
Yeah. And I think about the work Livy's doing in emotional intelligence. And I just wonder how much of that's happening in school or has the space to. Glenn and Mark, do you, as educators, where are you seeing this happen, or emotional intelligence growing in the education setting in an ideal school? Where do you see that happening?
Well, from my perspective, I would totally agree with the great late Sir Ken Robinson, who said that, you know, the system is broken. Why bother trying to fix it? Schools were invented for an industrial era to churn out kids all at the same level in the most efficient way. So we need to move totally away from that. So for me, the basis of education is schools are okay provided they can be learning centers. So the key thing is, let's create and develop learning centers within communities where we're bringing in people from the outside who share their life skills. And I hate the idea of you, Grace, having to go back to grade 4 to learn bits and fill in the gaps. Why should you have been told you have to do that? Why should you feel you have to do that? I mean, I mean, look at you now. You might say it's because you filled in the gaps, but trust me, you know, filling in the gaps did not contribute to where you are now.
No, and yeah, I'm still curious that you guys are still wanting to go to university. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Grace, how old are you right now?
I'm 17. So I'm going to be a senior this year and I'll get to go to university next year.
Wow. 17. You remember 17 easier than we do, right, Livy?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
What would you say to your 17-year-old self?
What was that?
What would you say to your 17-year-old self? I'm curious. It's close.
Just general advice or like education?
Education, just because we're talking about school and yeah.
Let's see. Honestly, I feel like because around when I was 17, that's when I really reached a point where I was like, school is just not doing it for me. Like I just didn't feel like I was I wanted experiences. I didn't feel like I was really growing. And so that's when I entered when I was like, okay, I want something else to do that isn't just like school or a sport within school. And that's when I started doing acting and modeling around when I was 17. And I think that's where it really solidified like this. And although it might seem like just sort of very simple, but I learned so much about life just by starting to do that when I was 17. I learned how to build a community around me. I learned how to create a network of people around me. I learned how to organize events, or sit down and memorize something for an audition, or how to get up in front of 20 people and pose while everyone's like rushing around me, and which has given me confidence in public speaking, and being able to talk into my camera for videos, which has allowed me to build the audience I have. And so I don't know if I would give 17-year-old Livia specific advice. I more so would just I feel proud of her for allowing herself to be curious, and that's a message I push a lot. Is I think one of the roughest sort of gates that I think get put around teenagers in general in the public education system is that because they view school as learning, they think that they hate learning, and therefore their curiosity is squished. And I think that's so devastating, because I think at the core, humans are curious, and yet our curiosity is just sort of squished because we think that's what learning is. And so that's the message I push a lot, where I'm just like, I do feel like there's things, a lot of young people that I speak to, they feel unfulfilled, or they feel like there's just nothing in life that they're passionate about. And I just don't think that's true, because I think it's just they haven't been taught the skills or even experienced a capacity of curiosity or how to find passion for something, which is just so unfortunate. Anyway, sort of a rant.
Love it.
Well, I mean, just on that point, every 5-year-old is incredibly creative. By the time they're 16 or 17, we've knocked it out of them. And so, your whole emphasis on emotional intelligence is incredibly important. And as part of the whole concept of well-being, schools want to do that, but they're so restricted by assessments and the pressure of how we measure education in schools is by exam results. So everybody's ultimately under that intense pressure. So we need to take away those boundaries, those restrictions, and allow people to interact. And that needs to be within the wider community as well, I think. And just one thing on that to Grace, when you're picking your university, that's really important. When I was a PE student a long time ago, I was told that 80% of your ability was genetic, 20% was through training. So choose your parents wisely. So my view would be, choose your university wisely based on the evidence you have of what good learning is, and forget about the names of unis. Go to whichever one allows you to be yourself. I've just been working with a batch of youngsters here in China at university who are within a very restricted regime. So coming back to the question again about how do we create the right environment, it's up to you, Grace, and people like you to burst out of those restrictions and to share beyond showcasing. It's something I was talking with Hope about the other day, and finding opportunities where you can go beyond showcasing and co-learning with other people. And that's exactly what this forum is doing. But if you can co-learn with the audience, then that encourages them. And it's not age tied, is it? We can all learn so much from you, and maybe you guys can learn a little bit from us. So it's that partnership, I think, which is most important. I'll shut up now, sorry.
No, it's great. And I'm the radical who is thinking, yes, university is an option, but I'm looking forward to introducing some of the teens to other members of the Brain Trust who are thinking about future of work, which doesn't necessarily line up with university. There is a gig economy. There are so many opportunities for young people, especially who are courageous and brave, like you, Grace, to sync up with real work happening right now. Not the theory, not learning more, but people who are actually working. I guess my question before we go to sharing in a couple of minutes, Grace, would you say alpha is the model that you would put forth as like an ideal? Like, could you design anything more in alpha that it doesn't exist?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think creatively. I was like, would I change anything? And I honestly do think alpha would be my answer. It's just, yeah, everything about alpha, I think, has allowed me to become who I am today. And it's definitely the greatest thing that's happened to me. And thank y'all so much for all of your great anecdotes and pieces of wisdom. Like what you said, Louis, was so good about how curiosity really gets squished. I love that because I think being curious is what literally led me to choosing my masterpiece topic. I never really was like a science girl, but I just found one thing that piqued my interest and I just went for it. And so I think that's so important. And I also love what you guys were both just talking about with college because I couldn't agree more. I think that really choosing wisely just from what I've already experienced is going to be the best thing I could do, but also looking to job options. I recently got asked actually to work for this nonprofit called TrueMed, and they're basically using HSA and FSA funds like to incentivize healthy eating. So they're helping people open up these accounts on Shopify to buy and Eat Sleep or Athletic Greens, a ton of these health and supplement products that are typically super expensive. But when you can hold back some money from your tax dollars, then you actually end up saving around 40% on it. So it's super interesting. But they were like, you want to come work for us? And I was like, maybe. I'm leaving it up in the air, but I'm trying to see. I just want to give myself the most options. So I thank y'all for all of your advice. This has been so wonderful and I've learned so much.
Oh, we're inspired, Grace. So great to meet you, Glenn, and good to. Okay, we still have some people popping in. Great discussions. I hope you guys had a teen in your room. We had Grace in ours. It was fantastic. I think we may have lost a few to the late nights or early mornings. Toan, do you want to open it up for some discussion? Or maybe he's still in his group. I think he is.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you for that, Hope. So I think for this part, it will be best for each team to share their solution to the mess. So that maybe a representative from group 1 could go on stage or just raise your hand and I'll add you as a speaker. And then you can just share your solution or some of your ideas with us. So would anyone like to volunteer for group number 1?
I was group 1.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't think we chose a representative, and I have a lot of notes, so I'll say what I have in notes, and then people can chime in.
Aaron, before you share, just so that we know who you are, you're in Canada. Can you just share like a quick high level? Hi, Aaron.
Sure. Yeah. So I recently graduated with a double minor in math and computer science. I currently work at an online school teaching math to special needs students. Very passionate about education, very interested to see what is possible and pushing the limits of what is possible. Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so what did I say? So I said daily check-in. So it's, day starts at 9 a.m. It's important. Daily check-in, 15 minutes. Save the rules and pledge, 15 minutes. Then there's like a 4-part cycle where you students plan their activity, exercise, study, and then have a social time related to that activity. So that's like probably a few different blocks until lunch. And then post lunch, we had the idea for a life skills block that like teaches grit. Clara, who's in our group, had some amazing ideas. So I also came up with the idea that you could make it like a mystery block, so like the students never know what's going to happen in that block, and you could make like some role-playing scenario, negotiation scenarios, and other stuff like that. Followed by daily audience building, networking, and masterpiece stuff in the afternoon. And then at the end, there's a daily debrief.
Oh, thanks, Aaron.
Yeah, Aaron.
Yeah, go ahead.
Erin pretty much covered it all. I just wanted to add, we created a block in the day for mentorship. If we had this, unlimited budget, we would try to get the people who are like the best at what they do and connect them with these kids who have similar passions and help them kind of work through, what is like the issue in my field? How can I connect it to an audience or a bigger purpose? And then just answer the 3 little questions. The role of teachers in our classrooms would not be to, teach. It would be to help kids who, find their way, be like a guide. So kids are helping teach each other, they're learning and they're teaching, which helps them learn even better. A day in the classroom, Erin kind of went over it. And then the secret sauce of our classroom is the mystery block, I think.
Awesome. I love it. And I love how well you followed the instructions. So awesome. Who's in group 2? Group 2. Mark, was that us?
It was indeed, but I think Grace should do the talking.
Yeah. Go ahead, Grace.
Yeah, so I guess I would say we kind of basically decided that Alpha would be the model. So the teachers wouldn't really have the role of teaching. Instead, they would kind of step back and they would be guides. And their goal would be to allow the students to take ownership of their education, but still be a springboard for them in case they get stuck moving along their journey. And then for a day in the classroom, it would look like the independent model. So students would be learning preferably on online apps. Not as much studying, a lot more just going through the curriculum and truly mastering concepts and going through all of that. And then the secret sauce of the classroom would be that students are, this is kind of off of what Libby was saying, but students are really learning. It's not just they're going to school and checking off boxes, they are truly learning. So they're curious and they're passionate, and this would help them develop their Alpha X project and all of these other things instead of thinking they dislike learning just because they dislike school. So I think that is what our model would look like.
Awesome. I just wanted to pull you up, Mark, to have you share just the passionate teachers. We have lots of passionate teachers on this call. I just wanted you to echo that again.
Sure. I mean, I think, one of the big problems is that educators are restricted by the systems in which they work, in the same way as kids are restricted by the systems in which they work. So a role for youngsters is to help teachers become facilitators and to empower them the other way around. So we need to free up educators to become facilitators so that they can engage their view from play to passion to purpose and excite youngsters as well. Just one thing, if I may just sort of mention, Erin mentioned about, 9 a.m. start, why do that? You lot learn much better in the afternoon because you sleep in the mornings. It's like trying to get you to say things at 2 o'clock in the morning. So let's get rid of that, let's empower youngsters to develop. But I think it's just great. The enthusiasm from everybody on this it's brilliant. And one point I would just add on that, educators need to learn alongside youngsters. So for me, this is great. I'm being empowered, I'm learning. So that's the key factor, I think, free people up.
Thank you so much. Amazing. And Toan, please go ahead.
So unfortunately, we lost our teenager. Jade had to go to dinner. But she brought up right away how much giving learners space, independence was. And that prompted us to discuss, okay, well, what are some of the limiting factors there? And we went right into, well, most of it comes down to some of the impressions that parents have about what education should look like. So we flipped it and said, maybe our school is about re-educating parents and leaving the space for learning of the students so that they have the freedom and space. We love the idea of bringing in a lot of democratic processes into the mix. So looking at some democratic schools for that. We also talked about the value of nature as a teacher, as an area of infinite wisdom there. One of the things that we talked also about, there's already models like in Tel Aviv, the child-friendly cities and education cities that are being made that might create a bit more of that space. When it came to our secret sauce, we actually said there should never be a secret sauce because every community has different tastes. And so every community will come up with a different flavor. And that's the beauty of it, is we don't all want to eat a hamburger. Some of us are vegetarians. Some of us like it spicy. And so secret sauce for us. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You got to add a little giggle there. So awesome. Who else do we have? Final for our group 4?
Yeah, we have group 4. And I think I'm the speaker for group 4. So our classroom are built on 2 principles, which is 1, flipping the classroom, and 2 is first principle thinking. And first about the flipping the classroom. So instead of doing the theory and like it's the lecturing part in the classroom, we decided to flip things around so that students at home, they would be learning about the stuff that, learning the theory, learning the material that they were given. And then in the classroom, it will be the opportunity for them to collaborate with each other, work on different projects, and create a more engaging classroom. And second of all, from first principle thinking, Stephen and I, we realized that learning how to learn and understanding the why behind we learn something is really important. Because for 2 reasons. 1, when we know how to learn something already, we can basically put anything above that, just like a Lego block that we can build things upon. And when we know that why why we're learning something, then it's that intrinsic motivation, intrinsic curiosity for us to explore the rabbit holes. And once the kids that they have that intrinsic curiosity in them, they will learn much faster and they will go the extra mile to put in that extra work to learn for themselves. So I think those 2, if we just implement those 2, it would create really noticeable change in the way that students approach their learning, but also like how much they're enjoying the classroom. But other than that, the role of the teacher are like the guide and the facilitator. So if they see the students, they're working on some projects and they need some support with that, the teacher will act as a guide. They will give them some resource. They will motivate them when the students are feeling down, because we don't want it to be like a too hands-on approach. We want the students still to struggle, still to make some mistake along the way, because like through those mistakes, they gain the experience and the knowledge from there. But the teacher, we would just be a gentle person who guide them on the right path. And I guess the secret sauce for our classroom is that it's a combination of collaboration and nurturing the minds. And when it comes to nurturing the minds, we realize that an emphasis on well-being and mental health is something that's being neglected in the traditional education classroom right now. So we would say like that would be something that we would focus more upon, which is the focus on well-being and also that emphasis on learning how to learn. And other than that, more project-based learning, flipping the classroom. And yeah, that is the idea from our group.
So awesome. Wow, big round of applause for the teens and the intergenerational collaboration. I love it. I wanted to hear from anybody before we close things up. Was there anything really surprising or anything that struck you today? I'm really keen to hear, coming into this with your own curiosity, chatting with younger people, older people for some of you. Please go ahead, Richard.
I just want to reinforce what you started off the discussion with Hope and Mark picked up on, that There are a lot of teachers in public education that are dying to try things differently, and they're just being basically stifled by the system. And so this whole idea of liberating the students also requires liberating the teachers. And so a two-pronged approach there. There are a lot of teachers that we need to see as our allies and our friends, and make sure that we're not fighting each other when we're on the same side.
Thank you. Well said. I can see some smiles here from teachers I know who've shared similar sentiments. Steve, I think you had your hand up. You were going to say something.
Oh, good vision, Hope. So two takeaways for me. I mentioned this to Toan. I thought that I wanted to thank him for embodying the principle that the student who knows how to learn can learn anything they want, because he's literally demonstrated by moving through the curriculum on his own and being a beacon for students being able to be agents of their own learning. And I wanted to give a shout out to all of the Alpha students that we met today, because they've each learned and undertaken something that I would wish more adults could take on, and that is having a genuine vision for themselves. And what could be a more important part of an education than adopting a vision for yourself, and a service-oriented vision to boot.
Amazing. Thank you, Steve. So good to see you.
Likewise.
Anybody else want to share any learning or insights that that you had? Clara, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really, really awesome talking to you guys. I'm so grateful that I got the chance and opportunity. So thank you, Toan, for inviting me to this. Yeah, it's just really awesome to see like how many like-minded people are out there, and how many teachers also want to like make a change. So, you know, I'm just so excited to see how many people have this vision for the future and have this vision of where education is going.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to offer up ways for you to follow Clara and Grace and their friends at Alpha, and Toan's work as well. I think we all need some beacons from younger generations, that's for sure. Anyone else before I go? Noan, please. Over to you.
I just wanted to share one of the big areas that I guess is a growth opportunity for me is hearing several youth talking about their engagement in social media, which for me puts up all these barriers, and I can see it as a very proactive tool, and it's something that I think needs me as a person to reassess as well. Like, okay, what is a healthy relationship to this? So thank you for that, youth who are engaging in that.
Amazing. We have Vanita, please.
Yeah, thanks, Hope. I just wanted to, since we have your host Toan here, and he had to do the pitch to his parents, and we've been talking about shifting the perspective of parents, curious about how his parents are landing with this, with you as a family and in their own community. How is that landing? Because it's different.
Yeah, so that's a great question, actually. It was quite a lot of like convincing for my parents to give me this opportunity to homeschool, especially because like I was the first person in our family, and like I don't even know anyone who homeschooled themselves. But I guess the reason why they gave me this opportunity is because I also provide a plan B, which is if everything doesn't work out, and like if I find homeschooling boring or something like that, I can go back to a traditional like international school setting, because like the program that I chose, like I could learn and I could use the credit to transfer over to the international school. So this way it provides me that backup plan so that my parents have more certainty and they feel more secure about this option. But other than that, like, I would say like my parents, after 3 years, like 3 years ago, I convinced them. And now I would say that they are pretty open. They're pretty excited about the prospect of what I can do in the future because they can see that I have been self-learning for this 2 years and like nothing have gone wrong. And like I am actually building some interesting project online. So yeah, they're excited to see what I'm up next. And they just give me more responsibility. They let me do things. So it really like they gave me more trust in what I'm working on. And like I really enjoyed that. Hope that answered your question.
Oh, building trust. If we as
Levy,
parents
I
can
see
do
that you're raising your hand. Would you like to add something?
Yeah. First of all, I love what you said about you just said that you are able to take on more responsibility. And I think often the thought process is like teenagers don't want more responsibility. They just want to be like young and dumb, and that's just like the way we want it. And it's interesting because as I've worked with young people over the years, kids want responsibility. Like when you were a kid, you wanted, you know, your mom to let you like stir the pot, and you wanted, you know, you wanted your mom to let you, or your one of your parents let you, you know, order your own food, or whatever you preferred to do. There were levels of things that you wanted to do that your parents were doing. And so I love that you mentioned that like the new responsibility is freeing, although there might be like more things to do, they're things you enjoy. So that really hit home for me, what you said about responsibility. But one question I had for the Alpha School students, it's tough in like the emotional education realm where it's like what should be taught in a school or learning setting, and what is the parent's responsibility. And so it's just a tough topic, and so I'm curious if at the Alpha School, if there is any sort of like social emotional learning or emotional learning as far as like identifying emotions or like communication skills or you know, mindfulness type things. Is that a part of what you do on a regular basis? Anything like that?
Grace, do you want me to answer this one, or do you want to have a go at it, or what do you think?
You can go ahead, Clara.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't say emotional learning is necessarily like integrated into our curriculum, but it's very like present. All of the guides have all the kids are split into like houses, kind of like Harry Potter, and everybody makes a really close connection with their guide, and they kind of act as like a guide. They help us, you know, navigate tough emotional situations, whether it's with students or at home. Yeah, that's kind of like a source of help for pretty much every student. And we have, you know, the school kind of counselor, but she doesn't really act as a counselor, because like when you say that, you kind of get this intimidating, like, oh, it's a school counselor kind of thing. But she's like friends with the students. She'll come and just like talk to us, regardless of like if it's about something really deep or intense. It's kind of fostering a bond of trust.
Thank you for that answer. Grace, I don't know if you had anything to add.
Yeah, I would say that it's definitely an area where Alpha can grow and is trying to add more things to it for that purpose. But in the morning, in my house, we do something called morning snapshots. So every morning we have to, it's kind of silly, but we say what color we feel like, and we kind of give a descriptive word to that color. And then we just write a little bit about whatever it is we're feeling. And you can write anything. You could just be like, there's this one boy in my house. He's very funny. His name is Rourke. And every single day he writes, I don't know how I'm feeling, and I don't want to answer this question. And that's it. And that's just what he writes. But it's a really good way for the guides to then follow up after, because they read through kind of what we say. So people definitely trust the guides. I think also the guides' expertise allows them to give a little bit of side advice that helps us, because we're working on these Olympic level projects. And normally when you're training for the Olympics, you have an Olympic coach. So our guides function definitely as a motivation for us, which I would say is huge at Alpha and helps us get over a lot of the hurdles. And I would say where we're really trying to grow is more so with some other emotions, but motivation, they've got us covered in all aspects. So
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, what that's actually really helpful. Both of the things you both the things that both of you shared is the idea truly is that if you're learning in a safe space, it sounds like, you know, emotional skills and communication skills are also naturally going to grow out of that. And that's sort of well, part of the conclusion I've come to, where it doesn't need to be so much of a curriculum. I think that can be good as well. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's naturally something that having a safe space to express emotions, to follow your intuition, to listen to yourself is naturally sort of a part of that. Yeah, that's really interesting. Thank you.
I'm taking notes. I love it. Thanks, Livy. Okay.
I think Richard has his hands up. Richard, would you like to add something?
Yes, thank you. Just to draw attention to another thing that I put in chat, the free to learn community. It originates from Greece, and it's a group there that has worked hard to define how we can create for ourselves an alliance of learners, a global community, which we need. Right now, part of the problem in us getting acceptance for our views is that we tend to be working in isolated little groups here and there. And if we could come together, just all new faces on this screen, except for a couple for me. And I keep discovering these people and sometimes masses of people that I had no idea were there. And we're all thinking the same. And if we can all get together in some way and express ourselves, we can overcome the stifling effects of traditional education. And so this link will give you information about a meeting of the free to learn community on June 14th, which will give you some idea about it. We really want to see youth showing up to these things. And so maybe Alpha, it could be proposed to the people at your school, if you call it a school, that you all just get on this call together and see what's being said. It would be a lot of food for thought and maybe help to get youth excited about making change happen. You would know that you're a minority of youth when it comes to that. Most of them are still just lockstepping through the routine the way they're expected to, and we need to try to have them dreaming about better ways to do things. And this call tonight really helps to create that.
Thanks, Richard. And I will be sharing the links that people have shared during this meetup and giving obviously that newsletter link. My mission and Toan's is to connect more of you with each other. Glenn, we're going to end on your amazing thought, and I'm going to pass it over after that to Toan.
Well, I just wanted to thank everybody for the experience. It was really not just amazing, but inspired. I'm really inspired about the Alpha teens, about what they're doing. I can really feel their passion. And it's, like I said, it's inspiring to see young people just being so confident about what they're doing and, their vision in life. And when we were in the groups, I was giving the wrong answer more thought, or sorry, the wrong question more thought, which was, how would you have your classroom? And Mark made me realize that, if the teacher has no passion, or coach, which what he said, which I prefer that name. I love that name, coach. If the coach has no passion, you're just destined to fall short or even fail. So we all have to be passionate about what we're doing, and hopefully we'll inspire people on the way. So I feel really inspired tonight, and I just want to thank you all.
Thank you. What a lovely share. Thank you so much. Toan, over to you to close things out. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Hope. And yeah, thank you everyone for showing up today. This is the first time that I host something like this, so I'm a bit nervous. And if I made any mistake, please let me know. But yeah, like I said, the purpose of this meetup is for us to connect between different generation, for the students to connect with the teacher, with the parents, so that we can share a perspective. And because I know that like in the education space, there are still a lot of problems that need to be solved in the future. And I believe that if we put aside our difference and we come together, we learn from our perspective, we brainstorm together and work together, then there's nothing that we can't do in this space. And it all starts with the younger generation being aware about this problem, and the older generation with that experience and that connection and that toolkit. We come together and we will build something amazing in this space. So once again, thank you everyone for joining in this space. Definitely stay connected with Clara and Grace and some of the other teams at Alpha. I think Hope is going to share the link to all of their social media.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone. And it has
We're
been
inspired
such
by
a fun
you.
experience.
Toan, thank you. You rocked it.
Thank
Way
you to
to
Hope
go.
and Toan for organizing all this. You guys have done such a great job bringing us all together and leading this entire thing. So thank you guys.
Clara.
Thank you.
Grace. Good luck. We'll be following you and Alpha. Thanks, everybody. Big hugs. We'll see you again soon. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Toan. Really loved your
good. I've got
there. It was amazing.
allergy in my
Thank you.
eye.
Thank you, Noan.
So great. Toan, you did it. Yay.
Yes, you did it.